This is the Digital Trust Podcast. In every episode, we strive to bring support to those of you who serve on the front lines and in the trenches of data and technology. We endeavor to bring understanding to the under-resourced and underappreciated, help remove your stress, and provide relief to your pain. Welcome to the Digital Trust Podcast. Sit down with us as we give you hard-hitting advisory conversations to help you build digital trust with your stakeholders and clients, and actionable takeaways to help you become a digitally trustworthy organization.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Digital Trust Podcast. My name is Christian Redshaw. I am the co-host, along with my esteemed colleague and co-host here, Zach Eikenberry. Zach, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you doing, Christian?
I am doing amazing, and we have none other than Scott Peterson as our guest today. I want to welcome Scott to the show. Scott has 3 titles, so I'm just going to refer to my notes to read those here. He is the CSO of Cyber Solutions, which is a solid MSP out of Anderson, South Carolina. He is the CTDO, so Chief Tech and Dev Officer at Lyra Recovery, and he is the CISO of Managed Zero Trust. So, Scott, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Look forward to participating here. And would you like a little backstory on myself?
Please, get into it.
Yeah, I think you have the 4th title, which is the person with the most titles we've had on this podcast before. So you're going to have to tell us your background and how you got into.
You have some explaining to do, Scott.
Yeah, it's so the titles, and like I mentioned before, I'm not big on titles, but they are necessary when you're at conferences and some of the presentations. It helps to understand what context we're coming from. You know, obviously, Lyra Recovery, the recovery piece, is going to be completely different than an MSSP or an MSP role. And then, of course, you have the you have to distinguish on the managed threat locker side how my role has evolved into fit the needs on the path to zero, which we're going to talk about later.
Mm-hmm. Sounds good.
Well, so Scott, because of your titles, you've seen a lot in the IT industry today, and I want to actually start with, what are your biggest concerns or your biggest issues that you see in the IT space today? Like, what are those things that really concern you?
I would say, coming from we'll present a CISO challenges, right? But they could also be any challenge facing any director of security or just an MSP, COO, CEO, CRO, one of those C-suite guys, or even a service manager. And I think first and foremost would be listening skills. I think so many people have a solution before they actually hear the problem. And I know in some of the virtual CISO roles, a lot of that is adapting a solution to meet a stated need, not presenting a solution after and then hoping it solves an unknown problem. And that's gonna vary from. I mean, we work with construction companies, law firms, PCI compliant, retail, manufacturer, and so forth. Taking what they're presenting helps you to use analogies to present the service or the solution that you're gonna be presenting. I would say another one, imposter syndrome, huge in the space. I think we've taken several of our network engineers, solutions engineers to conferences, and they're like, I'm coming in with these high level C-suite guys, and I don't feel comfortable. I don't know as much as they do. And by about an hour to 2 hours time, those guys are asking my guys questions, and they're like, whoa, I didn't know I knew so much. And figuring out that we're all figuring it out. I mean, nobody has a firm grasp. As soon as you think you have a firm grasp, somebody's going to shame you. I mean, you're gonna run up against something unknown, and you weren't willing to push that envelope, and you're not going to be ready.
Yeah, that's a pretty ironic that a number of CISOs who were able to get their careers in place where they're leading organizations actually are the best listeners and the best at asking questions. And that's counterintuitive to people that are just joining security teams because they think you have to come in with all the answers. And that's an interesting counterintuitive observation there. Absolutely.
Yep. I would also say public speaking and presenting in my role, it's an expectation. When I was 8th grade, I stood behind a podium and my leg was twitching the whole time. And I got a nickname of nervous, right? This guy is always nervous. And to this day, I don't stand behind podiums. So you guys ever see me presenting, you'll see I walk away from the podium. It's just not a comfortable space for me. I feel like I would rather present to a crowd as a teacher. And I think some of my education background, I mean, I used to teach Net Plus, A Plus, and so forth. I was used to that environment. So public speaking came natural once I walked away from that podium.
Yeah. So Scott, even before they get to the podium, when we're talking to up and coming IT practitioners and emerging leaders in the space, how would you advise them in terms of the lessons that you've learned on how to relate to business people? What ingredients do you need when you're talking to a CFO, to a financial person versus a CEO or a COO? What would you give as sort of a nugget of truth and help to those folks?
It goes back to that listening and also doing a little research on the company you're about to be working with, right? If they're manufacturing, what do they manufacture? Asking those questions about what are your pain points? I think so many people assume it's financial, assume it's a data set, assume it's productivity, but you're assuming, right? And we know the old what is assume. So, but yeah, I would always go back to that first meeting, understanding the client's needs, and then also being able to relate to what they do. Say it's manufacturing. Yeah, I mean, you'd be surprised. There are very few conversations you can't find common ground or something you're knowledgeable about that you can relate to those guys on. Because security to a CFO, that he's worried about finance. So you got to talk about data sets that are important to finance, whether that's maybe it's payroll, maybe it's his budget sheets, maybe it's passwords he saved on a spreadsheet somewhere, right? These things and understanding what he has in place or she has in place allow you to relate their day-to-day business activities to the security posture you're suggesting.
Yes. Yep. 100% agree. Scott, time for one more question here, and I'm going to squish two into one and look at both sides of the coin. When you're looking in the MSP space specifically, what is the state of an unhealthy MSP? In other words, for starters, break fix and reactive versus a healthy MSP that is strategic. So the two sides of the coin are, what does an unhealthy MSP look like? What are some red flags that folks should look for? And then what does a really healthy MSP look like in terms of their approach, their tech stack, and their security stack?
So to use the left of boom, right of boom type of analogy, I think too many of the tool sets and MSPs, I won't say get complacent, but get comfortable with the idea of their tool sets are good. Most of them are reactive in nature. There are very few proactive type tools out. And I think they get too reliant on reactive based tools and reactive based decisions versus proper workflows and a proactive approach across service and security. And I think that's what discerns between a healthy or more mature MSP versus either a startup or one that's become comfortable over time.
Right. And not every MSP has a CISO like yourself in-house or in the leadership. They're very, IT based, IT focused, sometimes maybe a little bit old school. So, getting that CISO expertise, whether it's in-house or external, I think is a huge factor. And we're seeing that with Cyber Solutions. Yeah.
I'd like to add one more thing. I think
sure.
To our CEO's credit and our other C-suite guys, I mean, they value the opinion of the security director or CISO. And I think so many times the security takes a third or fourth seat. And software developers in the past have followed the same. Security was an after the fact thought. So having that buy-in from your CEO, COOs, and CFOs is super important. And it's helped to mature the CISO position to an actual board member versus report to, C guy, right? So, yeah, that support's huge.
So your opinion is that valuing security and cybersecurity expertise is a really wise business decision in the space.
Absolutely, yes.
100% agree. How about
Awesome. Yeah, I think that's great. I think it is tough when you go from a break-fix space because you just wait until it's broken before you fix it, to going to we're going to prevent things from breaking, and that's a big leap for a lot of people. And
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're out of time, Scott. So thank you so much for joining us. We're going to have you back very soon for a second episode, and we can start talking about the zero trust framework and implementation. So I'm looking forward to getting into that. So Zach and I will be back to wrap things up in a moment. And thanks again for joining us, Scott.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that was Scott Peterson.
Was indeed.
Yeah, man. I know you're a big fan.
I am a fan.
Yeah, so
Solid guy. Good character. Wise.
yes. And you probably came across in the episode. He's a pretty humble guy as well.
Very much so.
Yeah, we're the ones that pick on him for having all the titles, but he is a humble dude.
Yep.
So what did you take away from this episode, this conversation?
Well, I can't help but think of his journey. He was talking about how he doesn't love the podium, and what was his nickname?
Nervous?
Nervous. I can relate to that.
Not very creative bullies.
Not really.
No.
That's not really a big burn. But so, before you get to the point of the podium as an IT professional, there's things that you need to learn to be able to relate to the people in the business. And so he talked about the value of listening and finding common ground. And so I think those are two really easy, quick wins for an IT person.
Yeah, I think listening and asking questions is an underrated superpower of chief security officers. So people that want to move up in the organization,
Yes.
being able to ask questions, being able to listen. And I think Scott's an example of that. So if you have a chance he goes to conferences, y'all, he said so, grab a coffee with him, definitely would recommend.
Yep. Sounds good. And we want to say a special thank you to our viewers and listeners for tuning in and being part of this conversation. And we will see you in the next episode.
Thanks for joining us today on the Digital Trust Podcast. If you found this conversation helpful, please share it with someone you care about. And if you'd like to receive our monthly newsletter, please click the link in the description to subscribe. And to put your mind at ease, our newsletter will include episode summaries with key points and actionable takeaways, plus a heads up on the upcoming episode guests. Rest assured, it won't be a spammy sales message, and we will never sell or share your information. Thanks again for tuning in, and we will see you on the next episode.